welcome back to my YouTube channel InfoBro. So in this video, it will be about pathogenesis of infective endocarditis. So I got a mnemonic for you to memorize this topic very easily. So let's start the topic. So there are two mechanisms the infective endocarditis is causing, by virulent organism affecting the normal valve and less virulent organism affecting the defective valve. So mechanism by which virulent organism infect the apparently normal valve is poorly understood. So the mechanism by which the virulent organism infecting the apparently normal valve is purely understood, and by the less virulent organism is by the following steps. So the steps are endocardial damage and denudation, formation of the sterile thrombi, adherence of the microorganism, proliferation of the microorganism within the vegetation, and formation of the emboli. So that steps are endocardial damage and denudation, formation of the sterile thrombi, adherence of the microorganism, proliferation of the microorganism within the vegetation, formation of the emboli. So let's start that. The endocardial damage and denudation. The endothelial damage is a common predisposing factor, and this may result from the turbulent flow and microaberration. So endocardial damage and denudation. Endothelial damage is a common predisposing factor, and it may result from the turbulent blood flow and microaberration. Now for the formation of the sterile thrombi, the damage which is already mentioned, expose the extracellular matrix. So it exposes the extracellular matrix, and the aggregation of the platelet and fibrin occur due to the coagulation. So the aggregation of platelet and fibrin occurs there and forms the sterile thrombi, and it thus forms the sterile thrombi due to the aggregation of the platelet and fibrin. Then the adherence of the microorganism, and it gain access to the circulation after transient bacteremia. The adherence of the microorganism gain access to the circulation after transient bacteremia. The bacteria enters the blood and adhere and deposition of the microorganism onto the sterile thrombi. After it enters the circulation, it adhere and deposit onto the sterile thrombi by the microorganism. So that's for the adherence of the microorganism. And then the proliferation of the microorganism within the vegetation. So proliferation of the microorganism within the vegetation. The further platelet and fibrin laid down on the deposit microorganism. So we have already discussed that the microorganism get deposited on the thrombi. Now further platelet and fibrin laid on the deposit microorganism, and the microorganisms proliferate within the vegetation and form colonies. So it proliferate within the vegetation and form the colonies, and once infected, these vegetation are going to enlarge. So the infected vegetation will going to enlarge and form the emboli. The vegetation may get detached and form infective emboli. So after the vegetation got big, and it may get detached from the surface and form an infective emboli, and cause the spread of the infection to the visceral organs and brain, and spread of infection to the visceral organs and brain. And the mnemonic to memorize this steps is don't sit ape. So there's an ape sitting, don't sit ape. So the DSAPE, this is a mnemonic to memorize the steps of the pathogenesis. D for the denudation or damage, and S for the sterile thrombi, and A for the adherence of the microorganism, P for proliferation of the microorganism, and E for the emboli, formation of the emboli. And that's for the mnemonic. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe my channel for future videos. Thanks for watching.